Okay, so it's 6:08 on the 3rd, and when I was looking, then it was 86% on my phone. So it was 86683. Because I was sitting there thinking, oh, 369. Maybe I should just wait a second till it changes to 9. And then 86 popped up. I was like, oh my gosh, 86, 68. And then, so the 3rd. And another weird thing. So this morning, the dogs were up so much last night, I couldn't even believe it. I think it was the 3rd time. And I looked at my phone, it was like 11:30. I was like, are you motherfucking kidding me? Like, what the hell? And so at one point, though, Stella she was whining, and I was like, stop, I don't want to get up. And so she was still getting up and coming over and laying here, standing at the end of the bed. And Max gets up, goes and gets in her bed. And so then she's whining. And I'm just like, oh my God, stop. I don't want to get up. So I pick up my phone and look, 3:37. So I think she woke up right at 3:33. It was the weirdest thing. Because they made all this big hullabaloo about 3:33. And in the middle of the night when I looked outside, I keep feeling like there looks like something orange on my face. In the middle of the night, when I was looking outside, it looked super, super bright outside. But I didn't walk out and look because I had to open the door so we talked. And I've been having so much sneezing, it's crazy. But it's something, there's something causing the allergies. But anyways, it doesn't look as bright right now as it did earlier. So I don't know if the moon was full, because it was supposed to be this big blood full moon, right? And still an eclipse and a retrograde and a blah blah blah. There's so many things going on, and this is supposed to be some big change energetically in our lives, or some big reveal or something. I freaking hope, God. But so there's a few things that I was going to talk about, though. Let me think if there was something else. I think Max is seeming a lot better, but he's on prednisone, and so he every time you get a dog, put him on steroids, they get a little like and mess with me. So I'm like more high alert over the interactions with him and Ruthie. And Ruthie really, she sits there and she's not like some aggressive dog or anything. And I don't know what's happened when she's gotten in a fight with before, especially that one with Mickey or Archie that was so intense. So, anyways, I'm just trying to prevent any altercations because Max is still pretty skinny looking. But he seems to be eating good. So he seems to be doing better, but he still can't swallow right. And the water turns to foam and all that. So, at any point, I guess he could have the aspiration because he can't swallow right. So, anyways, that's just a ongoing thing. And Archie, I'm kind of feeling like, I don't know, I'll see. But I'm kind of feeling like he's just kind of, now he had certain things to eat, and now he's just like, well, I don't want to eat that. I only want to eat this, so I'm not going to eat that. So he's kind of being like that. So he's trying to, throw like this little finicky fit. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think he's not feeling bad because he seems to be having lots of energy and playful. Stella, she's just a regular uncomfortable situation. But so anyways, the night was, because the night was so strange. This was really weird. So there was these long ongoing dreams where it almost seemed like I was watching a show, change channels, watch another show, but I was also the star of the show. So in this one that was really long, I cut something. Like, it was like we had borrowed something or rented something, and I don't even know who these people were. And we had rented something, and then I was trying to do something, and I cut on it, so I messed it all up. So we needed to replace those. And then there was a whole thing about this house, And they had a whole bunch of dogs, and they had 2 Doberman pinschers they kept inside that were real aggressive, and then they had a whole bunch of other dogs that were out and stuff. And then some guy came, but it seemed like I knew him, and he wanted to go in, and he had a thing with this owner thing, and they kept being like really weird to each other, and like they didn't like each other or something. And so on this one part, it was the guy I knew was in the garage with all the other dogs, and he was saying something rude about the guy's beer. Like he had crappy beer out in his garage fridge. And so he said, oh, I have better beer in the house. So the guy starts to walk in the house, and these Dobermans go and attack. And he kept going and going. It was so long. It was so weird. And it seemed like there was definitely some lesson in there, because I was thinking about it this morning, but I can't remember what it was. But this other lesson, it seemed a lot more clear, because I can't get it off my mind. So, and it seems the other day I had said something, and I can't remember what it was. It was something about, I think it was something about different species. And if it was something about, like, if you go to the Pleiades, they're all Pleiadians. If you go to Illyria, they're all Lyrians and stuff. And so, but here is going to be like a place where a lot of different beings come. And we're going to start interacting with all these different beings. And so it's like a hub or something. And it seemed like there was something else I was saying about it. I can't remember. I know that a long time ago, when different beings were coming and stuff, there was a lot of mingling. There was a lot of intermingling, interspecies mingling, because we were all kind of different. And so there were ones, there was an intermingling. And so in this dream, it was me and my dogs. But I also had this person who was hanging out with me, who was with me all the time. And he was, it was weird, because it was like, I think he was supposed to be a gorilla, but he stood upright, and he was slender. He didn't look like a regular gorilla. He had hair all over him, so kind of like a Bigfoot or something. At one point, I was like moving it out of his eyes. He had these really pretty blue eyes. And I said, I should cut it so you can see. And he said, don't mess with my hair. I can see fine. And I said, you can see through that? And he said, yeah. And so he told me to leave his hair alone. But he had tons of hair. So he looked kind of like a gorilla, but we would talk. So it wasn't like he was an animal. And we would talk and converse. Well, it was like this Beauty and the Beast kind of thing. Because it was like he had fallen in love with me, and then I was more resistant, and I was very concerned over what people would think. And so I was like, I can't be with you. You look different than everybody else. But he seemed like a regular person, only he just looked very different. And then there was this whole part, it was like this big resistance and stuff. Then there was this whole part then where I was with him, if you get my drift. And then he went and was telling people, and I was really embarrassed. And I thought everybody was judging me. And then he was like, so I'm not that bad looking to some guy. And I was like, oh, they make fun of how he looks. And so but the message that seemed like it came from this dream, because I said it's like you're learning things in your dream, it was like that same thing as like what humans have gone through for a long time. Because people, in my period of time of being alive at this point, was there was definitely the whole thing about no interracial, like if you shouldn't be partnering with people of a different race, and there was a lot of judgment on that, even though it began to happen and now it's common. But before, it was very much like that. And so it was like people would hold themselves back from love because the fear of being judged and not seeing like the soul inside. And so it made me think that when we start having this interaction, like when we start having all these beings that are going to be with us more, we're going to have them where they're just, living with us and stuff, that we're going to see those kind of couples. There's going to be couples that, that are just new kind of couples. Like, it's not, and I'm not sure if it's going to be like a humanoid with an insectoid or whatever, but I think there's going to be a big change. It's not going to just be like earthlings with earthlings. There's going to be different kind of pairings. So, which I thought that was kind of interesting too, because we had such a wave with these people as they were waking up, and they were like, the they, them, he, she, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm this, I'm that. And then we've also had this big wave of people trying to, what would you call that? Like having tattoos from their whole thing, tattooing their eyes black, people splitting their tongues, people doing all these weird, like where we look at it as kind of what is that? Not malformation, body mutilation. So a lot of people look at it as like body mutilation, but it's almost like they're from somewhere else and they are more drawn to where they're from rather than the conforming to where they are, and they're trying to represent themselves more in a different kind of association than the typical, if you get what I mean. And so we had such a wave of that happen, and it was like during the point in time of where people began to awaken, but people looked at those people as like strange and absurd. But I kept hearing them as being like disconnecting from the norm, and which is, it should be acceptable. And I'm still getting messages. It's so wacky. I'm still getting messages on this comment of Jim Carrey wouldn't get plastic surgery. It's like I freaking have gone against the grain of so many people, and so many people think it's so normal. It's like, are you paying attention in the world? Because a lot of us are looking around at all these people getting this work done, and they're looking botched. Even Heather Shaw now has commented and said, oh, he looks really botched, but you guys are such idiots to sit there and think it's a clone. She's so different than him personality wise. It's so weird. She may have like a similar face, but personality wise, they are way different. And so I mean, and she's acting. I mean, she's playing, like trying to play him because she looks so much like him. But so she's an imitator, really. She's not being herself. She's being, like, look at what I can do. I'm just like him. But personality-wise, she's not all. But, and like, oh, well, you think you know him? Just from paying attention to watching him in interviews and stuff. So anyways, and it's weird, too, because I didn't watch him a long time ago when he was popular. I didn't watch him until after I saw the documentary about the Man in the Moon. And he was so deep and spiritual. I was like, what? So then I started listening to him and watching his stuff. And so I would really listen with different kind of, because before I saw him as like being the jester or something. I saw him like being used. Like I knew who he was when he very first came out. And I was telling everybody about him. I was like, oh my God, you got to see this guy. He's hilarious. And I was really excited when he was on Living Color, and I would watch it all the time. I thought he was so funny. And then when he started doing those movies, that I started looking at him like, I don't know, I just kept thinking like he was being used. And he was like being used like the jester for the king. And so I stopped watching him. And then his movies seemed to be more directed towards little boys. And I had all little girls, so my little kids weren't, except for The Mask. Like that movie was on my 3-year-old. No, I think she was 2 or 3 when that movie came out, and we rented it. We ended up buying it because she wanted to watch it all day long. As soon as it was the cutest thing. She was this little tiny thing. She'd go over, she'd put it in the movie thing, she'd turn it on. And then she'd get her little dolls out and she'd dance and watch the movie. And then as soon as it get over, she'd go put it in the rewind machine, get it back out, and put it back in. Like she figured all this stuff out. She wanted to watch that movie. And I was busy, trying to take care of it. So it was her babysitter. So it worked good. Because I was cleaning the kitchen, doing the laundry, and it was right in the same room. Because I had like a den with the laundry room and the kitchen. And so I was right there. And then I had a new baby. And so anyways, but she would watch that all the time. So that movie, yeah, we were watching all the time. But once it started being Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber, that was when I was like, he's just kind of becoming like the jester of the elite or something. I don't know. It just gave me this weird feeling. So I didn't watch him. I didn't watch any of his movies or anything for all that time. And I didn't really know much about him. And I mean, I would see little articles and people like, oh, he's dating Jenny McCarthy, or him and Laura and Holly are married, or whatever. And because I'd read People magazine all the time. I was really hooked on the People magazine. I even had a subscription. But anyways, so the thing about so my opinion was more based on more current, like going in and listening to him. So a lot of the interviews and stuff that I would see, he was talking more about spiritual stuff and everything. So, spiritual has become so trendy. Now it's like there's one around every corner, but are they for real? And so, I don't know. People who are really on the real spiritual journey unite. So I felt like, I don't know. I just felt like he was for real, and I would watch him and watch his interviews. And so I just picked up on like, no way would he get plastic surgery. He would, he seems to be against all that stuff, and it's against the whole thing of not being comfortable with yourself. It seems that the journey is more about being comfortable with yourself and learning to love yourself and accepting yourself than it is to try and change yourself and conform and be what other people want you to be. And so I looked at him different, obviously, than a lot of these other people, who were his fans. And so I'm still getting these people, are coming at me who, think I'm crazy. He would definitely have gotten work done. Heather Shaw is saying, his face got botched. But that's him, and you conspiracy theorists really get on my nerves. Because, like, the real Jim is a conspiracy theorist. So, I mean, let's go listen to stuff he said on stages and shit. Which, somebody shared the video yesterday of Cappy. So somebody went and pulled that out of the rafters. And so what he said so Jim Carrey called me the other night, and he's all upset and crying. We talked for 5 hours, and then he told me just to come and go with Q, to go with that, and because he was scared of the brackets. It's like, the brackets. So I know that the posts had a lot of brackets, so I don't know, but that to me kind of gave confirmation that he was pulled into that whole network a long time ago. Like, he's been a part of this for a long time. And that's why he's, would be a part of playing Joe or something. This is just, my conspiracy mind going. But anyways, so, Heather Shaw would be like, oh, no, he got work done. It's botched. And everybody who thinks that he's a clone is an idiot. And she's like, I'm in Vegas right now, and all these people are out here drinking in the morning, but you guys are more drunk than any of them or something. Like, it's like, geez, girl, you're really getting emotionally really getting into this. So, anyways, and then the whole thing too about the stuff of putting it straight in and the fillers and stuff like that. And there is information that has come out that has said it's causing the big C in people's faces. And I'm having the experience, like this thing. I mean, so yeah, there's lots of people who are listening to that, who are seeing botched faces, who are hearing that this causes problems. They're not running over, oh, I got a young girlfriend now, I gotta look young, so I'm gonna go over there and get this. It's like, what? You guys are all so in a box of how you perceive. And then you're so willing to accept. Like, you want to go get somebody to botch up your face? Go ahead. And then you got people like, oh, yeah, well, he looks botched, but it's him. It's like, God. I even said something on her thing. I said, so you're saying he looks botched? But it definitely couldn't be a guy in a mask. It's like, God. And she's like telling other people like that they need to be more realistic. It's like, maybe you need to be more realistic. It's like the great divide. What is the great divide? How we look at things. And so, and this was another one too that I saw yesterday. And so this lady, psychic medium, because everybody's a psychic medium at this point, and so she was also an astral traveler. I don't know what all the fuck she is. A remote viewer. That's what she is. A remote viewer, she said. Remote viewer, medium, psychic. And she tapped into Jim. So she went to communicate with him. And he's dead. So the real Jim is dead. And he is, she said he died of the big C a few years back. He was surrounded by his family, and that he's gone, and they just have clones out and stuff. And she also said in another one that Donald, he went in for the sickness in 2020. The big C, not the big C that Jim had, the other C, the short C that ends with a D. That he went in to the hospital, and they murdered him. And so he's been gone this whole time, and this is a stand-in that's playing him. And which to me is like, okay, then why, if he's gone, why are all the certain people, so why wouldn't they just be resting now? Why wouldn't they just be like, oh, good, we got rid of him, we don't have to worry about anything? So it's like, I don't know. And so there was another thing coming into my mind when I was saying that. So just a second. So oh yeah, because now also so this award was a French Lifetime Achievement Award or something. And so the guy who makes the show, or the creator, or whatever he is, I don't know, he's come out now, and he has said, oh, that was the real Jim. I was the real Jim. You guys are all crazy. Which also, another thing about it is, when you see him, they say like his clothes were way ill-fitting. They didn't fit him right. They were too big or something, which then they're coming out and saying, well, he was doing that on purpose because he's changing his style. And but the thing that I kept noticing is, before, when you would see Jim around a bunch of people, he was always much taller than everybody else. This guy, everybody's taller than him. So it's the same thing as like the Joe thing. it's like they put these people out who seem like clearly this isn't him, but then all the people are just like, oh, it is, shut up, it is too, he just botched up, it's him, he would totally do that. It's like, what? God dang. So he said, oh, it definitely was him. He had his partner, his family, and 12 other guests were there with him. And we have been talking to him for 8 months. He started trying to learn French 4 months ago, which I still feel like, I don't know, the real Jim Carrey's dad was French Canadian. I don't know. Because now when you try and look things up to see, was he bilingual or something, it just goes directly to this. Oh, he learned French. It's like, I don't know. I feel like he probably knew some French before. I don't know. It just seems odd to me. Just like, now all of a sudden he's shorter than everybody, especially in France. And all these people are like taller than him. And so, so this guy has come out and said, no, it definitely was him. Well, if you had some character coming in there and getting this award, then, it's kind of a slap in the face in the awards, isn't it? It's like, so I guess you better cover yourself. Oh, no, it was him. But, and then, so yeah, he said, we've been talking to him for 8 months. He was so excited. He was learning French and stuff. So, I don't know. It all seems kind of absurd, especially because, Jim himself, it's not like, any of us saying this or just coming up with it ourselves, is that he was the one who said he thinks award shows are dumb and that, when's it enough? He has said all that stuff for a long time. He was against the Hollywood whole scene. He even said when he was doing the stuff from Sonic, he said after the slap, he said, Hollywood's no longer the cool people. We used to be, it was different, it's changing. So he was like separating himself from it. Plus, I said, I think that he has some part in this whole big disclosure scheme. And I think it probably because he was going against the powers that be, that he had to be in some sense of protection. And so for him to be bringing up that letter to Cappy, because this video, or this, it was a video footage of Cappy, that was years ago. It wasn't new. So I think that letter started posting in the beginning in 2016. I think the people that have been following him the longest, it might have been 2015, but it was something around there. And so, and then Donald came in 2016, and then it got more popular, but then it became the Great Divide, and the people who wanted him out, like I said, if he's really gone, then why would they be like pushing all the time that he's a monster, because it's nonstop. And now I think it's funny too, is because Hillary is still under her deposition situation, and so they did bring up the drip. So they brought up, the whole, all of that stuff, and she wouldn't answer. It had to go off record. So it goes off. So the beauty behind that is, then people are going to be like, well, what is that? What is that? Because this whole thing about the gate of pizza, they are all like, that was real, man. That was real. And freaking out about that. Oh, wait till you get to the drip, man. Wait till you get to that. You think that's crazy. Wait till you get to this one. And so I would think that there'd be people who'd be like, well, what is that? And start looking it up and finding out. And they're going to really start freaking out when they find out about that. And because it's beyond, man, it's just so horrific. And so, and then Hillary keeps getting all mad and pissy and stuff, and keeps trying to pull Donald in. Well, why would you keep trying to pull him in if you knew? I mean, if he's really gone. And because if they did him in, they would know. It's like we wouldn't be tricking them. They would know, like, well, it worked. We got rid of him in the hospital. So yeah, it just seems odd. And So then they were asking Bill, well, about the list and stuff. So, should we look into Donald? And he's like, well, Donald knew him. He's like, they knew each other well for a lot of years. And so he goes, but it's up to you. And which this guy is decrepit as hell. Could be really the Bill, but I think Bill was probably gone too, unless he agreed to do all this. But yeah, he's pretty decrepit, man. And so then he goes, well, I just want to be honest, though, is I've never, how did he say it? Because he said something about, Jeffrey had talked about Donald or something, but he said, I have never heard Donald be mentioned in any of the stuff. He wasn't any part of any of that stuff. So he now has said that. And so, because all this stuff keeps coming out, and those people just keep ignoring it. And then this is a crazy thing, too. So, when you see footage in Israel, in the RAN, and the people are all wearing just like normal clothes. Girls have on shorts, little shirts, just like, just look like any place else, just dressed regular. And they're out in the streets drinking beers and cheering and all excited, dancing in the streets. It's a fucking party, man. And they're celebrating, and then plus when you see the girls and you see like how they're dressed, and then you use your discernment and you think about how they used to dress just a few months back and the restrictions that were put on them, which somebody did a thing and was going up to women and saying, who has worse on women's rights, Donald or the regime, the regime? And they're like, man, I don't know. I think probably the regime is better for women's rights. Every single one of them! It's like, what in the ignoramus world are we living in, man? And it's like, Jesus, man, I just can't. Some of this stuff is like, what? The awakening is like, these are the people we live around. Like, they are living in their own little bubble, man. It's crazy. So, but at the same time, you got these women out there celebrating in the streets. There's huge protests here. People get out of Iran, signs, protest, these huge things. And it's like, you guys have no clue what is going on. And I even did a video the other day. So you are against genocide, or are you for it? Because you guys are not being clear on this. Like, you want to help people or you don't want to help people. And it's like they are clueless. They believe, I don't know what their media is telling them, but they're so clueless. And so then the people over there in the RAN are commenting back and saying all sorts of stuff. And they're saying stuff like, women in America have all their rights and they don't even understand at all. And telling them to shut up. I just saw a video of a woman who's from there, and she was reading a letter from another woman who is from there, from Tehran. And she said, for the American women to shut the fuck up. You guys don't have any clue what the hell is going on. Shut the fuck up. She said about 10 times. And she said that over there, they've been under this regime for 45 years. And when they decided to fight back, which I was just talking about the other day, when they decided to fight back, they came in hard on him. And she said that 40,000 people were killed in just right away of when they were trying to fight back against them. They said, we ask for this. We ask them, and we don't care if we get killed in this. The way we were living was too horrible, and that they needed help because that this regime was too powerful. 40,000 people, and that's the thing, is like, these people don't get, like, what you don't know what's going on over there, and your opinions are all just anti-Donald. It's like, get a freaking grip, man. And he's out there trying to help people. He's out there. And so then you do have some people who are talking about Nazar and saying, oh, because now they're going after a couple more places. And they said, oh, this all makes sense because they have to do this in order to bring in the Nazar. It's like, yes. And again, the GESARA is the global, the NESARA is the local. So I think the national. So, anyways, but the yeah, they have to. It's like a peace treaty. It's like you can't be over your citizens. You can't take the money and then starve your citizens. So this is the liberation to bring in the freedom of to get us out of the debt of slavery, and so it's for everybody. It's a global thing. So yeah, they got to take out the bad people to free the people so that they can start enjoying their lives. And then we have the resistance is here, where these people are like so hung up on Donald's the bad guy, Donald's the bad guy, everything he does is bad, bad, bad. And it's like, you guys need to sit back and start paying attention to what's happening. Man, so anyways, but there's lots of ladies or girls that are speaking out that are from the RAN because of all of the ignorance here. And it's like, we need them to come over here and help us. So shut the fuck up. And so you got that going on, which we have more happening. There's more things happening in the WW3, but you just got to keep in mind, this is the cleanup takedown of all of the people who have tried to control and enslave the masses so that we can have free. This is a liberation for all earthlings, really. Oh, I gotta move my leg again. Oh my gosh. I swear to God, it starts feeling like, it starts really hurting. So, anyways, there's a lot going on with all that stuff. And now, what is this, Tuesday? So I would assume there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. But it's all leading into something good, something big is coming. And you have a lot more people who are starting to catch on that whole thing of the something good. Like it seems like bad stuff, but it's bringing in something good. And so I don't know. It's very curious. There's lots of people who are like, this is the split. We're in the split. We're in the split. And I don't know. I mean, I think that this thing, this energy that's coming in is going to get people to have more clarity and stuff. And I think that I was seeing this yesterday. So the wave of energy coming in, and that it would be very uncomfortable if you can't match that energy. So you would be super uncomfortable. But it was something I was seeing about it yesterday, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. But now I can't think of what it was, but it was definitely about that sense of that kind of thing of the being necessary to match the vibration, the tone, or you're going to be in extreme discomfort. And so when this thing happens, whatever it is, I mean, there's lots of people who are like, oh, it's going to be an NUKE event. But the thing is about the NUKE is that the other beings that are fly around us in ships and stuff, they are going to put a stop to that, because we are in a realm of a bunch of realities are in the same vibration. And if they do something, it splits into other realms and other people's existence and their realities, and we can't interfere like that. So they'll put a stop to it. And that's the more advanced weapons have more to do with frequency and stuff like that, but it's our own government and stuff is trying to use that stuff against us. So there, I don't know, there's gonna be more, I think, coming. It seems like that there's a lot of talk about it, so like a lot of disclosure about it, but at some point it's we're going to see that it's going to become clear what's being done to us. So there's lots of speculation, a lot of people talking about it, but it's going to be clear, like, oh, they were using this on us, and they were doing this. I saw this video this morning too of this guy who was talking about in the 70s how everybody was so thin. Like when you look back at pictures, that everybody was really thin. Even in the fort, because I used to watch old movies all the time. And those women were even skinnier. So in the 70s, yeah, we were thin compared to nowadays. But in the 40s, man, those ladies were skinny. And you just watch old movies, like their waists were tiny. My mom would always talk about that, how small people's waists were. I always felt like, in the 70s, and I felt like, oh, I must be so fat because I don't have this waist like that. And I think, I swear to God, at one point she said like 16-inch waist or something, but I think some of them had like 20-inch waist. It was really, really small. And so let me think for a second. Okay, so in this video where the guy was talking about the 70s, so he was saying back in the 70s, people had to, and this is the thing about technology, where they say work smarter, not harder. It's not smarter. It affects your health. And so, I had brought this stuff up such a long time ago, but the like people just riding the lawnmower, even in their little yards, using their leaf blowers instead of raking. Well, back in the 70s, we didn't have all that stuff. And a lot of people even used push mowers. They didn't have ones that walked for you, that you had to push them with all your might. And you had to rake, you had to sit and pull weeds, you had to do all sorts of stuff. And so it was all physical. And like when we went out as kids, we went out, people would roller skate or ride their bike, or you walked everywhere. Like if you were going to go to the movies with your friends, like it would be a quarter. And your mom gave you a quarter. Okay, you can go to the movies. And a whole group of kids would all get their quarters, and we would walk however far it was to go to the movie theater. There wasn't parents driving you everywhere. And so you had to walk all over the place. And you walked to and from school, and the buses were something that was way out, like rural. It wasn't just buses going through the cities picking up kids. We had to walk. Like, it was weird how that started being like kids didn't want to walk a couple blocks to school, man. And we would walk a long ways. And even when we were little, like I remember being in kindergarten, my first year of school, and I'm walking to school. And we had to cross railroad tracks and shit. So Cheryl, mine was in Lenexa, and I think I had already said that before, but it was like, back then, you said Lenexa is huge now, but back then, it was a railroad track. We lived down this street. There was an old folks home. We lived down in this neighborhood. There was a cemetery over here. Over here was like a soda fountain pharmacy kind of place. And then there was this road, then this railroad track, then you cross that, and then the school was way over there. And you have to walk all this way to get over there. And then sometimes on your way back home, you'd stop at the pharmacy. I think it had candy or something. Then, and I remember one time I was walking by myself. I wasn't walking with a bunch of kids because I was walking. It was very traumatic. Somebody was in a wheelchair or something in the nursing home out in front of it. And then somebody was pushing them or something. I don't remember. I just remember them falling and laying down and there being blood everywhere. And I was just like 5 years old. I was like, oh my God, somebody's dying. There's blood everywhere. I was totally freaked. I think I turned around and ran home. I think I was so scared. And then every time I would be walking past there, I would always see the big blood stain because it stayed stained brown blood, brown. The blood stain turns brown after a while. And it was always there. Never went away. And it always freaked me out. I would always think, oh my God, this person died. And then plus we'd walk past the cemetery. And it was always like death, death, death. It was like they pounded that into us when we were kids, I swear to God. But anyway, so in the 70s, we walked everywhere. People did way more physical exercise. It wasn't people just driving everywhere. The cities were closer together. It wasn't so much, like we're so spread out now. And so there's a lot of things that people a drive to. But it used to be a lot easier to get around because things, you could walk. And so people walked all over the place. And the food, he said that the people used to eat like 40 pounds of sugar a year, and now they're eating 150 something pounds of sugar a year because they put so much sugar in the foods. And we used to not eat snacks, which that's true. We didn't eat snacks, and we ate home cooked meals. And home cooked meals, where everything was cooked more fresh. And I don't think, when you're eating cooked carrots and meat and potatoes and stuff, because that was like more of the staple of our food, was they couldn't put so much additives and stuff. So you were eating just like basic food, and you weren't eating all these snacks. They said nowadays it's way more about snacks. And one thing too, I've noticed so much of people who do recipes and stuff, it's like they try and add more stuff to make it taste good, to make it more fattening. It's like back then you would be trying to take stuff out. You wouldn't be trying to add things in to make it more fattening. You'd be like, oh, well, do I really need that mayonnaise when I can just have mustard? So it was more health conscious, kind of. Like you didn't just put in a bunch of stuff. And so the moms and dads were home. You ate dinner at home. You didn't have snacks. You were outside playing all the time. The parents were busy. The moms were down on their hands and knees scrubbing floors, cooking dinners. They'd carry their groceries. Because some of the people would walk to the grocery store, get their groceries, and carry them home. And the dads would go and be out mowing the yard. Like, people were just much more active, and they didn't have all this, make it work smarter stuff. That's where technology has failed us. It didn't make us better, smarter, healthier people. It interfered with our development. And so that part. And then they were saying in the 80s, when everything changed, that they started adding all these additives, and a big one was the high fructose syrup. And so they started adding that into everything. And they got the parents to both be workers. So moms and dads were both working. Now moms weren't home cooking. And also fast food was a treat back when I was a kid. It wasn't even once a week. It might have been once a month or something. Oh, let's go get a root beer. Hey, let's go get a burger. And go and you drive up to the thing, and you'd sit in your car and they bring it out to you and stuff. And so it wasn't like a all the time kind of thing. He was saying nowadays it's like, oh, let's not cook, let's get McDonald's. Let's not cook, where McDonald's and fast food has been eaten 3 or 4 times a week, where we would get it like once or twice a month. And soda too. He said nowadays people get those big gulps, and there's have so much sodas and stuff, where when in the 70s I've already talked about that before, like we got soda if we went to the lake. There would be soda in the ice chest, but you didn't get to just drink 200 of them. And then the only other soda we got was when my mom would have a bottle, and it would be down to the flat part. She'd say we could split it. So us 4 kids would split the last little bit of soda in her Pepsi. And it was like 1 liter glass bottles then. And we got to split this last little sip in the thing. And that was like, woo! So nowadays, it's like parents are kind of held prisoner to their kids' addictions or something. And so there's, sodas, everything in fridges. Kids just eat junk all the time, whatever they want. And so that is, obviously not healthy. But also in the 80s, so when the moms and the dads were both at work, so the moms quit cooking all the time. And then they started putting out the fast, quick meals and make it quick. And then there started being more and more fast food. And so people just started veering. But when you think about all this being done on purpose, that's the thing, is when it started being done on purpose. And to destroy our health. Because if you start becoming obese, it's going to affect your health. And we've seen that. That's not me just coming up with my own ideas. That's like, we've got to notice that. Like the diabetes, the blood pressure, there's so much stuff. So anyways, but I had talked about this before. He didn't say it in this thing, but the other thing that was introduced in the 80s was the cocaine. And right at the end of the 70s is when disco came out. And when disco came out, a lot of people, a lot of parents started going out and partying and going dancing and stuff. So it changed like the tone of, because parents partied all the time, but they would have parties at the house. Like everybody, a lot of parents would just gather at people's houses and sit and drink and smoke cigarettes and talk together. And so it was like community kind of driven. But then it started being like, get dressed up, go out, go dancing, party. And as the introduction of the cocaine became so household for a lot of people, and both parents are gone at work, so the tone started changing. And that's where these Gen X people, they get all up in their panties bunched up because they went through that period of time. And yeah, it does create a lot of independence because you're kind of left on your own. See, ours, when in the 70s, in the 60s and 70s, we became independent, but our parents were home. We still had, we chose not to be home. We didn't want to be somebody up our ass all day. We didn't want to have to clean the house if we stayed in or anything. It was like all the happening was all outside. You wanted to be out with your friends doing stuff. There's adventures happening, so you wanted to be outside. And there wasn't somebody sitting there saying, "Well, there's killers out there. They're gonna get you." We weren't thinking about that at all. I remember when it first started being that a car would pull up and they'd say, "Hey, can you give me directions?" And the kid would go over there. And I think I was around 10 or 12. I think the first time I remember this happening was, and the kid goes over there and comes running back. That guy didn't have he had his pants down. He had I'm sure he said like his dick or something like that, out. And he was playing with it. So there started being those weirdos who started doing that kind of stuff and pulling up on kids and urinating them over, or, pulling them over to the cars. But they weren't grabbing them and putting them in the cars. They're just exposing themselves in weirdo, sicko ways. But that definitely happened. I swear to God, once it happened the first time, it's like every year you would be standing around with some kids, and that kept happening all the time. It kept being like, man, there's a lot of these weirdos. But it wasn't like we were scared, because there was weirdos in the neighborhoods too. Like Mr. Island, he would stand in his window naked, and then he'd have the kids come over to his pool and go swimming, and then his swimming suit would always fall off, and he'd need some kids to go down and get it for him. Like, everybody knew, watch out for Mr. Island. And then across the street from him was the guy who came out and molested me. So there was, there was definitely weirdos around, but we weren't paralyzed in fear by it. We were still out living our lives and stuff. So, but yeah, once they did the introduction of the drugs and partying, and there started being more addiction, and then I think that probably at work they started making it a lot more competitive, and now women are out there, and so jobs, the scarcity of money, and the success story, how many TVs do you have and how many cars do you have? And so they started really pushing us to spend, make more money. And it all is based on how many things you have, is how successful you are. So they started, changing the tone, but that's when people started really gaining weight, was those changes, because they added all those additives and made meals much quicker, go to fast food, parents aren't home, don't go outside of the house. The latchkey kids, they were supposed to go home, get themselves in there, clean their rooms, do their homework, and watch TV till their parents got home. And then their parents came home and they were tired. They had a hard day. And people stopped eating together. Like when I was a kid, you ate dinner at the table. and you are on guard. Your parents are sitting there and talking to you and asking you questions and stuff. So it was, yeah, totally different, but it has affected people's health and their weight. And so now we have a society of obesity, and everybody's like, how did we get here? What's happening? But you can see, and it was all created, it was all done purposefully. Which also, another thing that leaked out yesterday, besides the video with Cappy, was it was from Real, is it called Real Raw News? Raw Dog News? I don't know, something. It's supposed to be the military newspaper. And so, and it was the article about what happened at Tom's exit. And so it said, and there was a lot of people that were like shocked. You know, Tom's gone? What? It's like, for those of us who were paying attention at the time, it was like, it's been weird that they keep bringing these people out pretending to be somebody you know's gone. But but at the time when he got taken, it was that whole thing where he was supposedly going to Australia to make that movie. And then when you could see certain footage, like I think I was seeing it on Twitter, and then they would try and make a cover story. But they, it seemed like that they were landing at the airport or something, and they got surrounded by military or something. So they got arrested, and it could have been them were trying to leave. I don't know, because the cover story was then that they had the C with ends with a D sickness, and they had to be in isolation because it was such a big deal back then. So they had to take him in and put him in isolation in the hospital, but really they were taken to court. And that's when all these people, Ellen, what's his name, James Spade, whatever, the little blonde guy, there was some other ones, and they all kept talking about Tom. Where's Tom? Has anyone seen Tom? If Tom's okay, we're all okay. All these really weird cryptic messages, which you don't know how many of them are a part of the play and how many of them were real. And I think a lot of the people who were even involved in the real part didn't know that there was people who were like playing parts, that they weren't all, you know, like James the Spade or whatever his name is, that guy. He I mean, he could very well not be, but, oh yeah, because his sister is Kate Spade. But don't forget, she found the red, she ended on a red tie. And I think it was his sister-in-law. No, it had to be, I think it was his sister-in-law. I think it was a woman who married into his family. And she became the big designer. And supposedly, there is a lot of this stuff that is made, these high-end pieces, purses, shoes, shit like that, are really not made out of cow, if you get my drift. And so, and supposedly she went up against something, and then was, found with a red tie. And then, but of course she did it to herself. It's like, oh, they all just choose red ties. And so, but, so I don't know if he was involved. But, I mean, like, that's the thing, is, like, some of these people could have been, like, trying to help them take certain people down. So, and would be talking to people and joining into conversation. So that's the thing, is I'm not saying who's what. It's like, because we don't really know until, where it's revealed. But but anyways, at the time that's when he was supposedly in the hospital with the sickness, and he was taken down to the court. And then after he was down there and went through, because the tribunal, those things are real fast. They don't drag them out like they do in our court system. It's real quick. And they said that even when they were looking at this is in this article, when they were looking at the evidence, they only looked for like 4 minutes. It was too disgusting. They couldn't handle it. And they said that they found him guilty I'll have 4 minutes of evidence or something like that because it was so gross. And and they asked him to respond, and he said that there's nothing wrong with little kids. It's totally normal, and that there's a whole group of them, and they go by something Mensa, but something like that. But men who entertain small children or something like that. I don't know. It's a whole group of them who believe that it's completely acceptable. And he said that there's many of us out there, and he didn't have any remorse. He didn't care. It's like we could do what we want to do. And so they did him in with not by a squad and not by the more common factor of the little things that they put, and which it was really strange because they said that it was very painful for him, and he was screaming, and which makes me think, like, I don't know if they put something extra in there to cause that, or if it was something that was in his makeup that caused his reaction. That they said he was screaming out in pain and stuff like that, because normally the stuff that they do, they put him, they put something in there to like put him to sleep or something, and then put the stuff in to stop their heart. But whatever they would put on his, they said that he was hollering and very uncomfortable and turning blue and stuff. So I was like, ooh. And so then after that happened, because it was all quick, then there was a whole, this was on Twitter too, where I remember, I think it was the Navy, and they put out a cryptic post, and everything is always they're always talking in code and in symbols. And that was a big thing on Tom, in which some people are starting to catch on to his, because it's coming to the surface again. Like, this has already surfaced for a lot of us in the 20s. We already are in 2020. We already saw this, but it's resurfacing in his posts. He would do these weird posts all the time of, like, being out in the street, and there's one little kid's shoe, and that would be his post, his little kid's shoe. A pacifier. It was always these little kids things. It was really odd, especially when you know, like, what he's involved in. And supposedly he was a big distributor of the chrome, and so he was a big part of the problem. And so when the Navy put out this cryptic post that was insinuating he's gone, and I can't remember how it was. It was something about it was something with a table. I mean, a plate, a sandwich. There was these certain things, but how they'll put them and what their meaning and stuff like that is, he's gone. I can't remember how it was, but they speak to each other. And so it was like the Navy speaking to the Air Force or something on Twitter, so we all could see, those of us who were conspiracy theorists who were paying attention, that kind of stuff. But so many people were not. But the letter was directing you to pay attention to that stuff. And so anyways, that's when he was supposedly gone. But anyways, so that whole article is resurfaced, and I can't remember what it's called. But the it wasn't just the article, it was a video that was made. So it has his face, and it has some stuff written, and then it has a voiceover reading the article. And so anyways, there's all this stuff that's resurfacing, that's coming back up. And so those of us who already, we already went through finding out about the drip and all this horrific stuff, and we were all falling apart back then, and nobody would listen to us. And now it's coming back around for the people who weren't listening. Now they get to be like, now they get to see the truth. So, but that's the whole thing, is that, seeing the truth, and seeing is believing. And then it is working your way through it, is how you raise your vibration. And so as this vibration keeps raising, we have to be able to keep up with it. And so it still is just, whatever it gets, there's going to be people who are not comfortable. And so it's either like work on yourself, or, they're going to get sick and die because they can't stay in that space anymore. So, but dying isn't real, so they just go to a different place. So anyways, but there is all these different things, that keeps raising the vibration. There's supposed to be these big waves and stuff. It does make you kind of feel like, is this what the sun is heating up about? Because it's just sending, because I think the sun is more of a portal. And the real sun, I think, is like a portal into our realm. But if, who knows, what they got going up in the sky. There's more stuff coming out now about the moon not being real, which I heard that a long time ago. I heard that on Ancient Aliens. I didn't even hear that on someplace. But back when you were watching Ancient Aliens, if you watched any of that, and that was on the History Channel. But there was people like, oh, you don't believe that shit, do you? Like, yeah, it makes sense to me. So, anyways, but now there's stuff coming out again. There's so much stuff that's just reoccurring. And for those of us who were into ufology or into conspiracy or any of that kind of stuff, it's just like this repeat. It's like it's got to roll back around and catch the new ones so the new people can start catching on. So anyways, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'll be happy to start getting more of the truth and the facts and stuff. And, and this lady who's, now saying that Jim Carrey and Donald are dead. I think she's saying some more too. But those two are the ones that I had heard yesterday. It's weird is because in Idaho, so just the day before yesterday, I think, a woman got lost in court. So she was YouTube. No, she could have been YouTube too. I know she was a TikToker, and she was an astrology tarot person. And then she started channeling, because all these people, it's like, you guys got to know who you're talking to, man. And so she was doing it on the Idaho before. I think that's what they call that whole murder scenario. And it was the one at the university that still is. There's more stuff coming out on that, because I think that there's probably it was just too obvious that there was something more going on. And so so she decided to start channeling on that, and she said that this professor, and I think it's a woman, this woman professor, started having an affair with a student, she said. And so she was the one who had killed them all. And so she wouldn't stop, and it got back to this professor. And so the professor went to a lawyer and started sending cease and desist. The lady was online making fun of it, saying, I won't stop, I'm going to prove that she did it, and all this stuff, and throwing this garbage away and all this, making this big production. So anyways, she ends up getting sued, and so she had to go to court last week. And she decided to represent herself. She still was in court going all in on this lady and questioning her, because she was representing herself. So she's questioning her mom and all this stuff. And so she lost. The psychic lost. And now she owes $10 million to this lady. So, yeah, I don't know. These people who come out and say this stuff is, it's like, if you're going to say something, at least say something positive. Don't just say negative stuff about people, because how do you know? And it's so obvious, it's so weird. It's like when you're trying to say something positive, well, you don't know him, and they're also comfortable with the negative. And it's like, that's slander. You know that? It's like, you can't just sit and slander people. They're going to be saying things, at least try and be, more positive. Don't be just trying to say, oh, they're crazy, they're on drugs, they're all this. Like, you're telling me I don't know them. Well, you don't know them, and you're saying all of this negative stuff. It's like, and I just find it kind of, comical, is that we have this person who's out here saying this stuff, and now she just got sued and lost for $10 million, and you still got people online just going to town, and now we got another person coming out and saying, oh, that person's dead. It's like, man, I don't know. I even heard, what's her name? The popular one on YouTube with the short blonde hair. What is her name? What is her name? The psychic who's been a psychic for a long time. Like, she isn't a new psychic. She's been a psychic for a long time. She's been on shows and stuff like that. And I can't think of her name. She's got short blonde hair. And I think that she says a lot of stuff that's probably true. But the other day, somebody was sharing a clip of her talking, because she said she was talking to Michael Jackson, which I don't even know if he's really dead. My brother said, but still, even when they set that up, that could be a clone. Like, because my brother, I said the other day about the whole fireman and his friend being the one who was there, who had to do the CPR on him. And I was like, well, was it really him? And he said, yeah, but to me, I'm like, they don't think about clones. I do. And so to me, it's still, Michael could be alive. I don't know. And, but Sloan, she was saying that she was talking to him, and he was talking about that he was gay and that he liked men. And then they started telling him he liked kids. So then he started becoming confused and stuff. And I was just like, I don't know about that, because from what I understood is that he was trying to bring the kids in to protect them because of what was going on and what had happened to him. And probably part of this whole, the surgery and all this stuff they were doing to his face is because they were pulling out clones and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, he could have been a clone for a long, who knows, man? I don't fucking know. I mean, the same thing with Britney Spears. Supposedly she has tons of clones. That one guy who was held prisoner, he said, in the clone center, he said that he was forced to write songs, that he's written all these hit songs, but they all come out in these different bands. But he is held there because he's a clone, and that he said that the most popular one is the Britney one, and that the people will come in, these rich guys will come in, and he said it's horrible because they'll come in, they want to buy the Britney one, and they want to time with her, and then they will go in and just do all sorts of horrific things. He said it's like beating, it's just horrible, and he said they pay to come in and do that to her, and so then they have to make a new one so that the next guy can come in and do it too. And he said, and so he was talking about that, which, and this was years ago when I heard this, and which a lot of people think, oh, that's just crazy, that guy's just making that up. But I just saw a guy yesterday, and he said that he is an artist who's being held captive in a warehouse with a whole bunch of other ones, and he said the painting that Kim Kardashian is showing, saying that Northwest painted, is not. He said, I painted that painting, and they're going to probably come after me for showing this, but she did not paint that. I did. And they're holding us captive and making us do this work, and then they're claiming it. And so, I mean, that's part of this weird world. I mean, it even goes so freaking far as a living doll. Like, if you don't know about that, so they're saying a living doll is when they'll take the person, and then I don't know what they do. If they remove bone, they make it to where they can't do anything. So if they break all their bones or they remove bones or something really weird, but so that the people can do whatever they want to them, and the people can't do anything. They're just like just like a doll. And it's, man, these people, like, you can come up with something weird, they're gonna go. I mean, that's all they do. Just come up with weirdo shit, man. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, we just got to see who's alive, who's not alive, what's going on here. Everybody's just a bunch of liars and a bunch of fakes and phonies. But so many of these people just buy into such negative stuff. So, I mean, I think a lot of these people, you know, are you guys considering getting plastic? Like, if you had money, would you just go get some? It's like you can't see what's, and then the constant chase for beauty. It's like at some point you just got to be like, well, it is what it is. Just let it go. So, and not constantly be trying to chase something. So, yeah, and that's, you know, the big thing of why I say there's no way Jim Carrey is going to be chasing a beauty standard like that. He had gone beyond that. Just like I said yesterday, I mean, you're going to go see a monk who's going to be coming out being like, well, you know, I'm getting kind of old. I think I'm getting some work done. It's like when you reach a certain point in your spiritual position or your spiritual journey, that it is about acceptance, about being grateful, about being at peace, not just constantly chasing. And so, anyways, yeah, I don't know. We live in a fake ass world where people bully you and accept weird stuff. And I mean, we still have all these people who are, now they're even saying, oh, you got half the people saying Kelly Osbourne looks like she's on her deathbed, somebody needs to feed her. And you got the other half saying, oh, she looks so good. It's like, what is the anorexia, our new stand? Like, she looks horrible. And then, so she went home after everybody's been just talking so much smack on her, which now there's people who are coming to her to, oh, God, you guys are so mean to her. And so now she's at home and doing videos, and I swear to God, she's putting a filter on. How do you look that different from being in public and then being home? It's like she's using a filter. Like all these people, like I think Kim, all these different people use a filter, and so they're not even real. There's nothing real, and then people want to go out and try and look this way. I don't know. Yeah, man, it's weird. The whole thing is weird, and what people accept, and and then to come up with, you know, like these people who have got tons of surgeries that we're going to put them as our beauty standard. Oh, that's the most beautiful woman. Well, we can all look like that if we want to spend $150,000 and we want to go under the knife. It's like, why? And why do we all want to look the same? When are we all going to start just loving ourselves, loving our own faces, and being content and happy with ourselves? When do we start working on being our best versions of ourselves and stop trying to represent or manifest into some other person? I don't know. So anyways, that's my opinion about it. That's what I think. And I 100% think the journey, what we're doing here as souls, is about learning how to love yourself, learn how to love everybody else, and how to have the day you want to have, how to be able to navigate between the dark and the light. Woo! I still am moving my thing. So see, we're here to move. We're here to navigate. We're here to find ourselves. So that's what I think about it. And 117. And so anyways, we'll see what they bring us today. We'll see what drama comes of this day, and then we'll talk about it tomorrow. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.